You don't need your best stuff. You are listening to The Competitor's Brain. This is Lauren Fox, and this is episode number 44. So a lot of the time, a pitcher thinks that he's going to need to have his best stuff in order to compete on any given day. But Ken Ravizza references a Hall of Fame pitcher named Bert Blyleven, who says, if you look at all the starts you're going to have in a season, 10% of the time you'll have great stuff, 10% of the time you'll have nothing, and 80% of the time you'll have really average stuff. Blyleven's comment, Ravizza says, is consistent with the thoughts of most pitchers we've talked to at all levels of baseball. So the deciding factor for a pitcher is how mentally tough you are during the 80% where it could really go either way, where your stuff is going to be average. And if you think about it, that translates to a lot of stuff. Sometimes you walk in and you feel like you got a good night's sleep, you're ready to go, you're going to do a great job on the test, you prepared appropriately. Sometimes you feel kind of mid, where you're just really not sure how things are going to shake out. And then there's sometimes that you just feel absolutely awful. I still remember going to a Dodger game when I was a kid. Bob Welch, who was one of their starting pitchers in the 80s, who pitched for the Oakland A's, won 27 games in a season for them back in the 80s. But Bob Welch threw in the bullpen, and my dad and I went down and we watched him in the bullpen. He looked great. Like he was doing everything he wanted to do, probably felt really good. And I think he lasted a couple innings that night. And for some reason, we left the game a little bit early. Maybe I had school or something like that, but we were walking out of the ballpark and happened to be walking right next to Bob Welch because it was the 80s and stuff like that just happened then. And my dad said to him, "Man, what happened tonight? You look great in the bullpen." And Welch said, "I left it all down in the bullpen." And that kind of tells you what you need to know. So sometimes if you're feeling that good, you might be in the bullpen and you really get that lather. You get almost too warmed up and you're feeling too good and you're not really thinking you're in a zone, but you might feel a little bit too good and not be able to execute how you want. It's in that 80% where you really have to focus and think and actually perform that is going to define your success over the long term. So on that day, Welch had it, but he had it to an extent that he almost went on autopilot and got knocked out after a couple innings. In that 80%, when you're feeling kind of in the middle where you have that average stuff, that's when you need to dig a little bit deeper. That's when you need to focus on executing every pitch. That's when you need to focus on having the right plan. And the same thing, again, goes for whether it's school, whether it's taking a test, whether it's a sales call. But if you're feeling great and you're on autopilot, well, you may make some silly mistakes. If you are not feeling quite as good, you're not feeling perfect, you might do that bit of preparation that you might not have thought you had to. And on a good day, you might say, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I don't have to do it. But on a day where you don't feel perfect, you're doing that extra little bit of preparation that might be the thing that sends your client into a point of purchase, as opposed to a point where you get off the phone and you feel like it went really well and your client's thinking, well, all this guy did was talk for 5 minutes and he didn't really answer any of my questions. What you can do in that 80% is really plan effectively, execute effectively, perform effectively, and that is what's going to get you the wins over time, is sticking to that routine, sticking to that plan, and actually executing and figuring out how to dig deeper when you don't feel like you're in that 10%, when you have absolutely great stuff and you're ready to go.